think in like a couple more minutes, like 5 more minutes. I actually just left next.
And I just got passed on myself.
Marcus, are you applying to any Ivy League?
Job I was supposed to get. And I got all these recommendations for it. You know,
What
the
is
Next,
Mic check. All right. So again, as I say before all meetings, just housekeeping. If you're speaking, make sure you're speaking to the mic. We are recording. If you're not speaking, make sure your mic is off so you don't get picked up. Whatever your side conversations are. All right. All righty. Madam Chair, I feel like we should go ahead just for the sake of time. And now that you got your communications coordinator here,
So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the December 11th meeting for the Student Advisory Council. We will now call the Student Advisory Council meeting to order. Communications Coordinator, will you please call and document attendance on the roll?
I will now call roll. Miles McNeese,
here.
Marcus Daniels,
Here.
Wesley Gillard,
Here.
Zachariah Artister,
Here.
Sayana Taylor,
Here.
Malik Paris, Leah Duffy,
Here.
Nigel Dubois, Zakia Dowdy,
Here.
Elijah Moody, Alexander Thomas Jr.,
Here.
Christian Bud Alston,
Here.
Savannah Millman, Sloan Mitchell, Brooke Smith, Gina Rick Holmes, Taylor Michelle Gray, Bethany Moman, Liam Geisler Norsung, sorry if I pronounced it wrong,
Here.
Madison Walker,
Here.
Corrine Evans,
Here.
Shira Priest,
Here.
Deja Gibson,
Thank you.
Shania Manning, Yinka, Anaya Terry, Kanaya Smith.
Is there a motion to approve the December 11th Student Advisory Council agenda? Okay. Is there a second? All right. It was moved by Anaya and properly seconded by Marcus. Are there any questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Is there a motion to approve the November 20th Student Advisory Council meeting minutes?
I move.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay. It was moved by Zach and properly seconded by Marcus. Are there any questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? So today's agenda is as follows. Start with the call to order, roll call, approval of agenda, approval of meeting minutes, and our discussion items are the Division of Student Experience, Student Support Services for 20 minutes, ad hoc committee planning for 30 minutes, breakfast with the board, reminders and reflection for 10 minutes, and then we will move into our next step, which will be followed by adjournment of the meeting. So now we're going to start with the Division of Student Experience, Student Support Services.
Hello, everyone. I am Alicia Curvey. I'm the District Truancy Prevention and Intervention Social Worker. And I'm here just for a short minute to let you know that from some of the meetings, there was an expression that you all wanted to have some wellness days or a discussion about wellness days. So we took that very seriously. There is an attendance task force that convened, and one of the buckets will be to discuss wellness. So that's what I wanted to share, and to let you know that you do have a district truancy and intervention social worker, excuse me, district truancy prevention and intervention social worker. And if you have any questions about attendance, you feel free to reach out. A lot of you and in your schools have reached out for your own, I guess, knowledge, but you can reach out and ask any questions as it relates to your own personal or, for the people that you serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Leanne Williams. I am the District Crisis Social Worker. And so I wanted to chat with you all today a little bit. This is going to be a little more conversational than presentation-y, if that's okay with you all. But I wanted to chat with you a little about the mental health supports that are available for you all here in APS. And I want to make a little disclaimer that a lot of what we're talking about is more specific to the traditional schools, but we will address what's available charter partner as well. So if you have questions about that, please don't hesitate to let me know that you want to chat a little farther about anything that I address, okay? Awesome. So we have on-site mental health providers in every single one of our schools. How many of you knew that? Awesome. Okay, so this QR code right here, if you scan it, it will show you on the website what the name of the mental health provider is at each of the traditional schools. I do know that some of our charter and partner schools also have mental health providers in their schools, so I would encourage you to ask if you would like to know who your partner is if you do not see your school name on that list. So the way this works is referrals go through the school social worker. How many of you know who your school social worker is? Awesome. Okay, so if you or one of your classmates or someone else at the school needs some mental health support, they can get a referral to the agency who comes to your school. The rules about that are if the student is under 18, you have to have parent or guardian consent, and the therapists are not supposed to take students out of their core classes. So they can be pulled out of connections. Is that what you guys call them in high school too? Electives, connections, all right. See, we're getting there. So those are the classes that the student may be pulled from for therapeutic services. And depending on what the needs are will depend on if they just have the services at school or if maybe the therapist goes into a home, does family services, things like that. So this is available to all of our APS students, okay? And so I believe that not everybody knows that. So that's one of the reasons that I wanted to get up and talk to you all about that. So I'm gonna get a little of your feedback in just a second, but I wanna tell you about a couple of other things and kind of talk about it all at the same time. Do you guys remember talking about Talk It Out with Miss Montgomery? Well, as of today, I believe is it official that it is coming. So, yay! All right, so if you don't remember, Talk It Out is going to be a phone number that you all can save in your phone. And if someone would like to talk to a licensed therapist, this is not a per se crisis line. If you call the crisis line, you're going to talk to a crisis worker, right? This is a therapist. So someone thinks if someone was going to call the crisis line, what would they be calling the crisis line for? Emergency? What kind of emergency? About to physically harm themselves, maybe like having some mental breakdown. Those are great examples, right? Talk It Out is a little different from that. You can reach out to them for those reasons, but you also can reach out to them for other reasons. How many people know that sometimes the holidays can be hard for folks, right? People lost somebody, maybe they have some difficulties with family members, maybe somebody's significant other broke up with them. You know, there's all kinds of things. So the difference in Talk It Out and maybe calling a crisis line is you can just have that conversation with a licensed therapist that doesn't necessarily qualify as a crisis. So it's multifaceted, okay? So we are, lofty goal, launching this next week because we want to make sure everybody has it in time to go on break. So that's the plan. Fingers crossed. Put all the good vibes out for us, right? All right. I think we're ready for the next one. All right. So this is where I need y'all. So there are things that y'all didn't know about that's been a part of APS for quite some time. So I don't think we're doing the best job of letting y'all know what's available to you. So how would your classmates know that a support existed? If the only place they heard about it at school, what's the best way to tell them? I can hear you. Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, we're recording. Okay.
Is it working? Okay. So I know my school has like our school Instagram account that's run by a member of the PTA. And so I know that's how we hear about like everything happening at our school, like all the programs. So if like at the beginning of the year you send it out to each school's Instagram account to like post, then everyone would know about it from the start.
Do y'all think that students follow the school Instagram account for the most part? Any other social media account that would be helpful that schools have? Mostly Instagram. Okay. You know, sometimes people try to do TikTok and things like that. So I want to make sure we get them all covered. All right. What else? Yeah.
For me, I'm going to say that at my school, and speaking from what I know, the best way to get students at our school to really follow something or to really announce something would be town halls or like seminars and sit down. That's like one of the best things that we have when we need information or something that's coming up for us that's important. Town halls are the way to go.
How often does your school have this?
Monthly.
Okay.
Monthly.
All right.
I think a way that we can get out some information this way. Okay, I think the way that we can get out some information about what's already available to APS students could be starting with 9th grade orientation, because we get orientation when you come into any school about the school, but there's some outside resources like, you know, we didn't know there was a mental health provider in every traditional high school. So that's something that we can make sure that 9th graders are learning about. And for my school, I'm at a charter school, so we have advisory, which I'm pretty sure is like homeroom for everybody else, or I don't know if it's called advisory for everybody else, but homeroom could be a good place to spread that information as well.
I'm assuming 6th graders have orientation too. Would that be accurate? Okay. So for the on-site, okay, so real quick, the Talk It Out app or texting line is for 6th through 12th grade. All schools, elementary, middle, and high, have access to the on-site mental health partnerships. So, but thank you for saying that. So we have orientations, advisory, or homeroom. So teachers or whoever's leading your advisory or homeroom just makes an announcement about it. Reminders. Okay.
I would just say using the morning and afternoon announcements to spread that information. That's what we do at best for the most part.
All right. Yes.
So at my school, each cohort, they have their own Google Classroom. So we usually make announcements on the Google Classroom.
Love that. Does anybody have, and I don't know what to call this because we didn't have this when I was in school, but you know, like a news type thing where you guys have that? So where students kind of do news style morning announcement type thing or something like that. What do you all feel like that would be effective?
Personally, can you hear me? Oh yeah. Personally, no one really reads it
Okay.
at my school. So
So
We-
a newsletter type thing would not be super effective.
We have like morning announcements that go over the intercom. And
Right.
people listen to that.
Okay. That's helpful. All right. What about specific like campaigns? If there's like posters up or posters, what about QR codes with the
I say
posters?
QR code. 'Cause
Yeah.
everybody's on their phone.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So posters with QR codes or work?
Yeah, and I also say like I know my school we have like advisory slides. So like every morning they like put like new information or like kind of like a newsletter, but it's like for each grade level. So basically, I know like for 10th grade we're doing like NYP personal projects. So like they put like stuff that each grade level needs to do on the advisory slide. So I feel like if we did add that to the advisory slides, it would be beneficial.
Okay. I'm gonna put a star by that one. Yeah.
As far as campaigns go, I think it's worth mentioning that I think people will be more likely to use the service if they're referred to it by word of mouth than just hearing about it on, a newsletter or something like that. So I think that when we are like advertising it, essentially, it might be worthwhile to like push that it's useful to tell your friends about if you think they might be in need of it, just as it is like for your own use.
Love that. Yes.
I would say during the lunch wave, like different, like maybe set up different tables, or like she said with QR codes, put in the posters in the cafeteria.
When it comes to word of mouth spreading the information, I think within schools, the SGA or even the Go team could be responsible for making sure that the information gets out, like either like classroom to classroom, it could even be.
Mm-hmm. That was a great suggestion too. You guys are full of good information. Okay. Anything else? Yes.
You know how we do like science fair projects and social studies fair projects, and we put our boards in the media center for everyone to come and look at. Well, at least in my school, maybe we could do poster boards on mental health, and maybe have a couple students do it where they share their own story and put their own resources on their poster board, so that it's not just APS giving resources, but other people who might have therapists that they can share with everyone else.
Yeah. So like a personal story, like the trifold boards or something. Gotcha. Okay. All right. Do you all feel like there's anything that we're missing? That might be a big question, but I want to make sure to hear. So we have the text line. We have on-site partnerships. We also have local agencies that, so if a student is struggling, maybe a parent or guardian comes in for a conference, the on-site provider won't work for whatever reason. The social workers and counselors have a list of other agencies they can provide to the family if they want it to be totally separate from school. So we have that. We're getting the Talk It Out. We also have the See Something reporting line. We have Let's Talk. Maybe a couple others that I'm not thinking about. But I want to see if there's anything else that you all feel like we're missing. Is there a big, like, man, I really wish we had that? Yes.
So mental health has been like something that like a main topic I have been talking about, and one of my ideas was like coming up with an Asynchronous Wednesday. So basically, we will take a break from like being in the school classroom setting. I mean, we will still be doing classwork and school related stuff, but we would just be doing it online at school.
Online at school?
No, online at home, I meant.
Online at home.
Yeah.
Okay. So kind of like a built-in work from home wellness, catch
Yes.
up on your work, asynchronous day.
Yes.
Okay. I hear you. Our attendance Truancy social worker back there is taking some notes on that too.
So, one thing I feel that's kind of very important is connection building.
Okay.
I don't know how easy how I don't know how the logistics around it, but with the Chris 180 people or the different partnerships with the therapists and such, it's kind of hard for some people to be open to go to the resources if they never interacted with these people. Like, you know, a lot of people in here and just in general APS aren't aware of these services in the first place. So even if they are aware of them, it's kind of hard for some people to go to this person without having to never spoken to them, never seen them before, just now learning about them.
Yeah.
So I feel even beyond just the communication of it, having the people at least, like, even if it's like twice a semester, they come and actually interact with people, that can make like a big change and more people actually using the services.
So like more visibility from the people who are providing the services.
Yes, because you want to know who you are. You want to know the people who are actually helping you before you even speak to them in the first place. Because you want to build an actual personal connection and have them see you as a person rather than just as a therapist.
That's a great point too. Because I mean, even as adults, we don't want to. So I get it.
I think we're missing the timing piece. Like right now it's finals week, or finals week is coming up. So even though Talk It Out isn't officially launched, but if it had already been launched, this would be the week where teachers and principals and everybody in school will want to let people know, like, hey, there's this resource out here. Finals week and like before our big breaks, which is, I think it's just like Christmas break or like holiday break is our biggest break, but like a time like this is really pivotal.
Agreed. And I would have loved to come up here and tell you, here's all the cards and stickers to give your friends. I wish we were there. It was just couldn't quite push it that quickly. But you're right. You're exactly right. Last question, and then I'm turning it back over to you all. Would you prefer for tangibles, right? For Talk It Out. So we'll have some posters and stuff. What do you think would go over better? Stickers or like business cards, postcards, anything like that? As far as like carrying it around, sharing it.
I think that merch would be a good thing.
Tell me more about merch.
So like maybe if you guys did like a raffle where you hand out t-shirts and stuff, I think that will have them more interested.
I love a t-shirt. Yeah.
I will say at Drew, one of the something that's really big is buttons. People really love buttons at Drew, so just something to have around, and then also having like something that we can keep with us rather than like a sticker that we throw away at the end of the day. That would really do well at Drew.
Okay, I love that.
For us, I know wristbands are popular. Kids in my school, if they see it, they'll grab it, and that will be a good way for us to spread the word around and more kids to find out about it.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Thank y'all so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and I love hearing all these recommendations. So if y'all think of anything else, please let me know.
Thank you. Okay, now we will move into our ad hoc committee reports. So, okay, academics is the first of the ad hoc committees, which is actually my ad hoc committee. So I think Shira would be the best person. And also for the ad hoc committees that follow, which are budget and performance, equity and social justice, operations, and then schools, please decide on someone who will be representing your ad hoc committee and presenting.
Okay, so for academics, we've been focusing on two really big things. So the first is revamping the SEL curriculum at all of the schools, and I've reached out with the high school's SEL coordinator, and we've been talking about giving our input at SEL meetings because right now they're actually already planning to redo all of the curriculum. So we've been trying to give like our input of what would be helpful, of like useful life skills, especially, you know, for college and career, which is kind of the APS mission statement, is preparing kids for college, career, and life. And then the other big thing we've been working on is making sure people in the district know about like all of the diverse curriculum options we have. So Drew reached out to some of our district representatives about making curriculum fairs at every school, because she's already trying to implement it at her school, and she already has like a very big document about it that outlines how it's going to run at Maynard, and has been reaching out with some district people about implementing that at every school. Some barriers we've had was in the first couple of meetings, we had trouble connecting with adults that actually were related to the goals we wanted to work on right now, but we've reached out in emails and it's going better because we actually looked at who we needed as our points of contact. Drew's had some struggles getting people to respond to emails, but I think that's going okay. And we haven't started our third main goal yet, which was to like prioritize test prep. Like at Brooks School, they have a lot of really good ways to get kids interested in improving their testing scores. And so we've been brainstorming about how to do that, but we're not sure like how to continue with it.
Excuse me, Shira, I don't want to cut you off, but we actually have Dr. Bryant here, so she can talk a little bit more about SEL and updates in that.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And thank you for the email. It just filled my heart to hear that you guys were interested in this way. And I do have everything that you've outlined, and I just can't wait to dig in and explore more. I hope you'll sit at the table with me for future conversations and planning. So really quickly, I did want to check in to see, when you talk about revamping social emotional learning, what is that look in your school? Like, what are you calling SEL?
Our school like doesn't do it anymore. I don't think.
That's valid. That's truth. That is truth. Anyone else?
I know North Atlanta, we have like some PowerPoints, but most people like it's kind of the same thing every time of like mental health, but like in the way of learning how to build friendships or like resolve conflict, which is kind of the same it's been since I was in elementary school at least. So no one really has interest in it, and most teachers don't do anything anymore. Like we just sit there.
I agree with Drew, but like kind of at my school, we're thinking about having like, we're in the midst of planning a SEL Spirit Week. So we do podcasts with SEL. We do like different stuff to try to engage the teens, so it won't just seem like, oh, it's the same old from, you know, past grade levels.
Thank you.
So I actually brought this up like 2 months ago, but our group called CORE, they incorporate SEL, and we have many groups. Like one of them is called Not a Number, and that one's basically like where we take one day out of the week and we journal. And then we have one called Conflict Resolution, where all the girls, they'll gather all the girls, have them sit down in a room, and like just have them talk about their beef, but in like a respectful way. Yeah.
Our restorative practices. Who else?
Yeah, in my school, we definitely practice some restorative practice style things, such as we just call them circles, or you know, conversations when there's problems, personal problems. But for SEL, we have a college success course at KIPP, and that is the space where we do SEL lessons. If we ever do them, it's probably about like once out of the month.
Yeah.
So
Thank you for that. Is there anyone else? All right, let me address two things, because I hear a lot of coupling of social emotional learning and mental health. SEL is not mental health. SEL supports mental health. Those are two different things, okay? And the other piece, a lot of the ways that are being described where social emotional learning lives is in conflict. And that's a reactive approach to SEL. But did you know that social emotional learning really is foundational to the skills that you need for life? So there are a lot of things that should be taught because they're life skills. And then we can bring in the reactive piece when those things are needed. So there are lessons that are out there. And the first revamp came because I write the lessons, I write our curriculum for high school because the people that I hired before, the feedback that I was receiving, most students did not engage with that content. And so I'm like, I'm APS. I graduated from APS. I've been working in APS. I know APS. So I started creating curriculum for APS. And because my brain thinks too much sometimes, the lessons were long. And the reality is, your teachers, you guys didn't have time for that. So the first revamp came in minimizing that. And then another group, just like you, 2 or 3 years back, gave feedback that was used to update the resources. And so now what's available today, I don't even think you've seen it based on what I'm hearing right now. So what's happening each month, I'm loading new lessons for 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. There's one lesson per week around various different topics, things that are culturally relevant, things that are relatable to you as young people, things that I think would be of interest. And what you have shared here will be feedback for me to use in the lessons that I created for second semester. But when I look at some of this, there are partners that will be a part of this work with me. So the main revamp that we're doing is around advisory, which somebody brought that up over in this area earlier. Advisory looks different everywhere you go. And typically, social emotional learning lessons are taught during advisory. But what's happening, if something else is a priority, then SEL is taken away and test prep is built in, or scheduling, or is transcript, whatever. Other things are built into that. If it's Red Ribbon Week, you name it. That is what is added to advisory. And so oftentimes you miss those opportunities. And so what we're doing is trying to figure out what could be a standard way to approach advisory for all secondary schools in Atlanta Public Schools, and your voices could play a role in that. So I do invite you, when we sit at the table again in January, that committee, to start planning that out. I do invite you to be a part of that. And I thank you for this. I am going to include what you gave me into second semester's resources. And I will also email you back to say, hey, take a look at this. What do you think? Is this something that is of interest? But none of it will matter if your teachers aren't teaching it. Or you, the leaders, the student leaders, aren't teaching the lessons. Yes.
What if it was y'all gave teachers a training on how to teach social emotional learning? Because I know I have a young teacher for my advisory, and he don't really go into it. We rarely do anything SEL in the morning. So maybe we gave teachers y'all gave teachers a training on how to teach it. Maybe it would be a better. Yeah.
Would you be surprised if I said we did, and we do continuously? There's a person, but I'll take that feedback because that means that it's not moving forward. But there's a person in all of your schools called an SEL liaison. That's not their only title. Sometimes they're counselors, sometimes they're assistant principals, sometimes they're restorative practices coaches. But there's an SEL liaison in every single school that I meet with, my team and I, every month. And we train them and give them the tools and resources to take back for you. But I understand we have other things happening in schools, so I do not blame them. I know that there are barriers, and together we can figure out the best way to approach these barriers. But I hear you. The training isn't enough. It's not making the impact on the ground. So that gives me an opportunity to reflect and figure out what else. Because I trained, now what? So I'll figure out the what else. Thank you for that. Anyone else?
When it comes to implementing the social emotional learning, I think that there could be different interactive exercises done. Like maybe one day students can come in and make cards expressing their feelings or how they feel and how to like interpreting their feelings, being able to openly express themselves, like just teaching them through different exercises so they could get a feel for what it really means.
I love that. I'm inviting them to let me come back one day just to show you what you haven't seen. There is, I write every single month a ton of lessons that do just what you're saying. They are interactive experiences that allow you to connect, that allow you to explore your emotional framework, that allow you to figure out, think forward on how you would deal with issues that come up in life. So they're available. And I would love it if you guys looked at a few of them at some point and say, hey, okay, this is cool, or this isn't cool at all. So go back and try it again, Dr. Bryant. So I would love your feedback because they're out there. The lessons are out there. What else? All right, so I think the summary here is there are resources that are available you just didn't know, and maybe some of your teachers didn't know, or they knew about it and other things came up and they couldn't juggle it the way that it needed to be juggled. So we also have approaches that we're taking to integrate SEL into your instruction so that when you're in your classes for content, SEL is immersed in that space and it doesn't feel like another task for your teachers. And hopefully some of you and other leaders in your school will take the initiative to lead those lessons and facilitate those circles. Somebody talked about circles. Those are in the lessons. Restorative practices, experiences are in the lessons. All right, so at another time, I know today is not the time, I would like for you to look at some of the lessons and see how they feel. And then that feedback will be the thing that I use to create new professional learning experiences for educators to continue to grow in how they approach this work. But the power of it all would be in the new way that we look at advisory in our district. And if we're all doing the same thing, if advisory is this way, then there will be a space for people to implement the lessons. Okay? All right. Any more questions for me?
Also, hi. Hey. Okay. I did wanted to add because you made a great point about student leading, because I remember in my 8th grade, we kind of did like a church session for a SEL. So I would say like promoting activities such as that would be amazing. Like just having music and essentially incorporating SEL into a more open space. And I also want to add, instead of just making it into a lesson, maybe teachers don't openly make it into a lesson. Like sometimes a student would be like, oh, this is school, this is lesson. Oh, I don't want to do this automatically because they think they're going to do work or they have to just stress about thinking about something. So maybe instead of just saying, oh, hi, guys, this is a lesson, a teacher could be taught to openly just talk to a student, check up on a student. And if a student mentions something, then you could possibly be like, oh, yeah, we'll have your like empathy, this, that, or, you know, when we face this is life, this is a part of life. I would say just interactions in general so a student can open up. So when the lesson does come, like essentially building up into when the lesson comes, then everybody is like ready. Everybody actually wants to participate.
Primed and ready. I love that. Two things that you highlighted. Music is infused all in the lessons that are available to educators. The very first lesson of the year, when you first start the school year, is the song We Are Family by the Pointer Sisters. And it's a way for you to dissect the lyrics and see how they speak to you as a community so that you can create your family values as a classroom that will live throughout the school year. And that was the first lesson. Okay, so just little experiences like that. And my motto about priming students, my personal motto, even with adults in this work, is check in before you go in. I always check in. I like to. I wasn't here at the start of your meeting, and it's not my meeting, so I'm not going to come up and do a check-in. But if it were my meeting, I would have started with checking in with the people in the room in some way. It's not always just a how are you. It might be go stand by something that looks like how you feel right now. It could be literally anything, but checking in before you go in is important. The brain needs that before you can access the areas of learning when it's time for instruction. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ryan, and especially on behalf of the Academics Ad Hoc Committee, we would love to catch back up with you and just give you some feedback. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Keep it up, guys. Y'all are serious in here. This is a serious business room.
Sure. Were you done or did you? Okay. Okay, next we'll be moving into the Budget and Performance Ad Hoc Committee.
Hello, I'm Corinne, and I'll be speaking for the Budget and Performance Committee. So the first thing we want to address was our accomplishments. So we have contacted our committee liaisons, and we're still waiting to receive information because it took us a little longer to get the emails sent out. But we did, while we wait, we went ahead and looked up ourselves. We did some research on the status of some of our previous recommendations, and so we were able to look at the 2024 budget and also look at some updates posted by APS to see what has occurred. So one of the recommendations from last year that we saw a change happen for was to work to increase teacher salaries, and we found that for the 2024 to 2025 school year, teacher pay was set to be increased by 11%, which was the largest set increase in APS history. And then another thing that was recommended last year that we also saw improvement on was funding to support students for travel and domestic and international opportunities. So we know that APS had a Global Explorers travel program this year where students in the French and Spanish language courses were able to receive an opportunity to travel abroad to their respective countries for free and to have a cultural and educational experience with this program. And then another recommendation where we saw improvement was to provide more funding for the arts programs. And for the fiscal year, we saw that increases of around $2 million were allocated to the fine arts programs, and transportation for these activities was also increased by $425,000. And for a couple barriers that we saw, we also addressed some recommendations with SEL. And so one of them was to fund training for students to easily access See Something, Say Something programs. And we thought that though this is probably beneficial, it might not be as interesting for many students to incorporate this into SEL, as we were kind of just saying, SEL lessons are sort of fading out, and many students aren't really focused, or a lot of teachers don't even use these. And we think, like we were talking about with the app, there could possibly be other ways to promote this if we need to, rather than trying to add something else to the already existing SEL lessons. And then another barrier that we saw was that it was recommended to provide more funding to increase the number of AP course offerings. However, some of our students spoke and said that schools don't have the capacity to offer these courses and may not have certified teachers. So we would also have to address an issue with additional funding for these teachers if we wanted to move forward with this. And then we had a couple questions about some of the recommendations, but I can just kind of skip over those. And then the one that we wanted to prioritize was allocating additional funds towards school environments. And we thought this is something we could potentially work with operations as well to pursue this, because we've heard from a lot of students at our schools, there's especially a major issue within the bathrooms, and it's kind of getting out of control. There's a lack of, sometimes the bathrooms are closed, sometimes there's no clean space, there's no materials available. And so that was kind of one thing that we wanted to take forward and really push for that this year. And then some additional recommendations that we had were funding for the athletics, and not specifically just adding more to the athletics budget, but spreading it more evenly, because we know that there's like a lot of separation between the amount that different sports get, and we want to try to work towards making this amount more equal. And then also potentially funding towards pep rallies, because we think these kind of build school community more, and then it would also be a good way, like we were saying, to get information out to students and make them available of the things that are going on in the school communities and then the APS community as a whole.
Thank you so much, Corinne. Was there any questions before she walked away? Okay. Now we can move to The Equity Ad Hoc Committee.
Hi everyone, I'm Zakia Dowdy and I'll be speaking for the Equity and Social Justice Ad Hoc Committee. So first I want to start with our accomplishments. So in 2025, the APS Office of Communications, in collaboration with the APS Office for Equity plus Social Justice, will begin publishing a digital version of the Equity Forefront magazine. That's what we want to work on. We also created a survey that's going to be pushed out into all schools. It's going to be based off of how do you feel about social justice, how is social justice in your school, and how do you feel about equity? Okay. So a couple barriers that we have faced was communication with our committee members and our ad hoc committee members. Also, diverse interests and goals that we might face for this APS news digital newsletter, with different schools having varying priorities and communication. We coordinating with different schools and different school schedules. Another one is technical skill gap. So basically, the new recommendation that we want to add is a digital newsletter, which SGA or SAC will be running, and it would add different students from different schools, so then we can ask them how they feel about it, and how that'd be create a better way for us to stay engaged with different schools and create a more diverse community for people to feel safe and included. A couple questions that might have been asked is, who's the target audience, and is students or parents, teachers also part of this community? Yes, the target audience really is for the community base. We want the community to know that SAC is here, and we do we understand your questions. We understand how you feel, and we also want you to feel included where you go and wherever school you're at. Also, we are trying to have this published towards like the end of 2025, but it is kind of hard because of planning and getting everything together, because we want to have different schools, like might have different schedules. So we just trying to get that into the works. And the next actions and steps is for planning a committee with different students, groups, and teachers and administrators. What is our main goal, and setting guidelines for our publication. Thank you.
Hey, Zakai, I have two questions. Sorry, but I was wondering, how are y'all working through y'all's communication issues in y'all's ad hoc committee, and how do you suppose other ad hoc committees could probably do that same thing?
Okay, so we have a group meet, and we have our iMessage group chat, which is Leah. Leah is our co-chair. She didn't tell you, Miss Dr. CT, but basically I text her in the group chat almost every day, telling them that this is what we need to do. This is our new recommendation, and we really need y'all input. Also, we had
And Brooke, I'm gonna say something else that we do is, even if everyone that's in our committee doesn't communicate back, we still make sure that we push all the information out. So even if you aren't present to hear it, if you take initiative, you'll still go back and be able to see it if you want to.
Mm-hmm. So when we have like our visual, like our digital group chat meetings, so like on FaceTime or something, we'll send in notes to tell them, like people who couldn't make the FaceTime, we'll send them notes telling them what happened in the FaceTime, and do they have anything else to implement.
Well, thank you. And then I also have one more question about, I heard you say that y'all want to make sure that we're getting the word out about the SAC and letting people know that we are a resource.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think that should look inside schools?
Inside schools?
Like the SAC members inside their schools, how do you think they should make sure that we're getting the word out about the SAC as a resource?
For me, yes, at Fresh Adults, student voice is very important, but it is hard for me personally, like by myself, to tell my teachers, like, this is what we're doing, or like even with my peer leadership class, it's hard for me to say, okay, well, this is actually I'm gonna give you an example. The brunch with the board members, I told our peer leadership counselor, Mr. Walker, about it, and how Dr. CT directly wants it to be with student based and diverse. But it's really complicated because the adults usually want to take initiative on it. So I'm just trying to make sure that people understand that, like, they hear me.
And Brooke, I want to also add with the council chronicle that goes over the things that are all of our accomplishments and what we have going on. That is sent to all SGA advisors at every school. Is also sent to principals. Is put in the principals like weekly news blast. So that's another way that we're working on, but it's really just focused on SAC. So, but it's a way to get the word out as well.
Okay, well, all right. Another thing that could be done is, so if at your school it's harder to get the word specifically about SAC out, I would just recommend working closely with your school SGA if you're not already on it, because if you feel like it's harder to get your voice out by yourself, if the student body listens to your SGA and they take the word from the SGA serious, I would say going to the SGA advisors or even on the morning announcements, I say that the student body will listen, but you just kind of have to press the issue.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Was there any more questions or? Oh, okay.
I can add something to that. Can you hear me? At Mays, I went to my assistant principals and joined the town halls to let everyone know who I was and who Taylor was. So if you want to do something like that, you can do that as well.
Oh, also, I advised making a survey. Did it get approved, our survey? You didn't get the survey? Okay. We'll work on the logistics later. Okay. But creating a survey about your committee, basically, or overview, so people can know that what your committee is and what you do specifically as a person or as a whole. That would have a great impact. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Equity. Okay, now we're gonna move into the Operations Ad Hoc Committee.
Hey y'all. That's better. All right. So as far as our accomplishments, I'll start on that. I will admit that we're more still in the planning phase, I would say, than the majority of the other ad hoc committees are. The majority of what we've gotten done so far has been related to planning out what we're going to do and drafting up all of our action items. And so we began doing that, of course, by looking at the previous resolutions that had already been passed by last year's SAC. And so what we found from that, I say we have 4 major points that we laid out that we're going to be looking into first, that we can put ourselves in contact with the right adults. So that would be investigation into the variety and nutritional effectiveness of the lunch options that we have in the schools, the viability of the a la carte options in the cafeteria, going on from that topic, and then reviewing the effectiveness of the security protocols that that APSPD has in place right now, and preventative measures for things like that as well, especially in light of the tragedy at Appalachia High School a couple of months ago this year. And finally, we're going to do a big survey of student and teacher satisfaction or dissatisfaction with the facilities at their respective schools, so that we can look into what specifically needs to be tackled when it comes to the facilities department of operations committee. As far as our barriers go, I would say that for myself personally, at least, it's a little harder for me to get really into the thick of it when it comes to what we're doing for school level changes, because I attend a pretty small charter school with I'd say abnormal facilities. We're kind of in trailers. So as a result of that, I would say it's kind of up to my other committee members to do ground level research on what it is that we can tackle, and also to get in contact with people at their schools, because they have a lot bigger community of people to draw from. Also, I'd say we do need to look further into who exactly we're going to call on when it comes time for us to get into contact with our adults, so that we don't spend too much time just not being in contact or waiting for a reply to our emails or anything like that. And then finally, as I mentioned earlier, we do need more information on what exactly people want to see from us. And so that's what we're going to try to accomplish with our survey. Let me check this. Yeah, and so a couple of questions that we had, what our next steps should look like with respect to getting in touch with these adults, like how exactly we should go about doing that, and then how we should balance the feedback coming from students versus that coming from teachers or staff and faculty in general, because we know that that can be like pretty different in terms of what those two groups of people are focusing on, and we want to be able to incorporate them both into our action items pretty effectively. So action items that we do have is, of course, drafting all of the mail that we're going to send out to the adults, collecting our data, and putting together all the resolutions that we're going to act on in a comprehensive and actionable manner, so that they're pretty easily understood by all of us, and we can know exactly what it is that we're doing.
Okay, thank you, operations. And is there any, before I go into my questions, is there any other questions for operations? Okay, so yesterday we had breakfast with the board at KIP, and you guys kind of said that you're like confused on what exactly people want to see from the operations ad hoc committee. And I think that we heard from Dr. Brooks. I forgot like the rest of his name, but his name was Dr. Brooks, and he's on the APS Board of Education. Yeah, and he added that there's a difference in the pipeline between the information that is coming from the board and what the teachers are actually hearing. So maybe you guys could look into that. And then also, I also want to ask, was there any other recommendations of what operations could be looking into? Yeah. Okay. We'll talk about it more, but we'll move into the schools ad hoc committee now.
Hi guys. I do not like being the last one, but it's fine. So for our accomplishments, y'all never got back to me, but I had emailed y'all to try to get into contact with Matthew Underwood. That did not happen, unfortunately, but we did email. So we've discussed our recommendations that we wanted to keep, omit and revise from the previous SAC recommendation from last year, and for one of them, we had suggested bridge programs, and from what we've seen from the schools that do have bridge programs, such as South Atlanta, the students do genuinely enjoy them from the middle schools. They do genuinely enjoy being able to come and interact more with their high school that they attend. Tired, sorry guys, but talk it out, and students be able to speak more on the issues they're observing in schools or their own personal struggles is a big step in the right direction to make. And barrier-wise, with everyone having their own personal lives and school and their own commitments, finding time to discuss can be a bit difficult. That's definitely one of the biggest barriers. And another one of our biggest barriers is with the recent role changes, and going to cluster superintendents. The APS page hasn't listed who the cluster superintendents are, so we're not really sure who those people are with contacting. We're not sure who the cluster superintendents are at all, but that's probably the biggest barrier. We've had a few questions, which the first one being, who are the new cluster superintendents exactly? Because we aren't aware of who they are at all yet, and how often we'll be able to interact with them in the first place. With the charter and partner schools support, when can we expect the annual report regarding the school year 23-24? Because the most up-to-date annual school report we have from charter and partner schools is from school year 22-23. With regards to athletics, APS partners with Atlanta Park and Rec, where lifeguard training is offered for free to students 15 and up. So a question we have with that is it possible for us to get to where APS students can potentially get free or reduced swim lessons also, because many people do not know how to swim, and being able to partner and get free swim lessons is a big step in the right direction for APS students. And I think Dr. CT can answer this for me here, but how is the organization of a rollout plan in regards to the Student Bill of Rights looking?
Yes, so we are going to be rolling out the pilot in January. We have identified a school per cluster. we can't pilot it in all schools, but for the high schools, Jackson, South Atlanta, and Douglas agreed. And then we're waiting to hear from two middle schools, because Howard already agreed. And then we're waiting to hear from the rest of the elementary schools. So no matter what, even if we have elementary through high, we have at least one school in each cluster. And so the pilot will last from January until April. And during that time, we'll be meeting with school-based teams, trying to figure out what's currently in play at schools where we can embed the Student Bill of Rights. And then if it doesn't seem like the school has anything, what are some things that we can create? At the end of the pilot, we are working with our data team to come up with some surveys and some focus group questions to identify the success of the pilot. The goal is to roll out the Student Bill of Rights district-wide during the 25-26 school year.
Thank you. Wait, I have one more. Do you know if the data report will be available before the final meeting where we speak to this board?
As far as the Student Bill of Rights?
Yes.
Yeah, hopefully, right? The plan is if we do it by the end of April, and I know that we all present, like the SAC presents in May, that will be ideal. But I'm gonna be on the ground, so I will at least be able to give you some real-time feedback and some qualitative data based on my conversations and engagements with those schools.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And in regards to our next steps, just generally getting into more contact with the adults in regards to our field and organizing the next meeting for our committee to discuss.
Thank you, Zach. Does anybody have any questions or anything to add from like that? Okay. Well, I have one thing to add. Partnerships wise, I think that was a really great idea to do the swim lessons partnership idea, and I just was wondering if you guys were looking into any other partnerships, and if not, I would definitely say like it's worthwhile because that sounds really interesting from my perspective.
Definitely do plan to look into it. I just know that specifically with the lifeguard training, Parks and Rec does offer APS students free lifeguard training for like students that are 15 and up. From like November to April, you can go in and just get free lifeguard training at Roselle Fan. So if they're able to do that, I'd imagine that they could possibly work something out in incorporating, at least if not full-on free, reduced prices for students to get swim lessons.
Okay, thank you, Zach. Oh, sorry, Gina.
2 questions. It says it's stated right here that the bridge programs have been excelling, but it's saying most middle schools already know which high school they would like to attend. But my question is, it was brought up in the breakfast with the board too. Have you guys ever looked at like middle schoolers essentially getting not trained, but learning how to use their voice in a manner so they could speak up? Because it was mentioned having like 3 of our middle schools at the breakfast with the board. Some of the middle schoolers were like, "Oh, I'm kind of scared on how to use my voice because I'm uncomfortable." Have you guys like looked into that, or maybe high schoolers could essentially empower some middle schoolers so when they come to high school they know how to use their voice?
I will say in regard to, at least with me, I've tried to actually go to my middle school and speak to them. It's been a bit of an issue for me personally. I really don't know why. My Harvard is weird, but I will say at least though that like it definitely is a thought to try to go speak to the middle schoolers, because I know from experience, especially when you're in school, especially that it's kind of a bit difficult to go out and be willing to speak, especially when the breakfast board coming up. Their students aren't as aware of like how the school board runs a lot of time. They think they're like big bosses who are like get paid millions, which isn't a reality. They're just regular people who work regular jobs. Like Shivy is just a school teacher. So I think, yes, that's a good.
And then my second question was talking about the anonymous app. How will that be facilitated? Because what is stopping a student from essentially lying and causing a fuss out of nothing?
So Let's Talk, there's a new application where you can submit anonymous feedback, and then you also have to see something, say something. Of course, with it, it's not like taking it as face value, so there's going to be some additional like follow-up behind it. Because the students cannot identify, they don't have to identify themselves, it'll be challenging to kind of track it back unless they choose to identify themselves. But we do ask the question of identifying the course so we can narrow it down. There was one situation where, and I think it ended up being a parent using the student feedback function, where it was some visitors in the classroom. We were able to kind of pinpoint which school. I called the principal, and then they addressed it. So it's a little tricky, but just know that if someone's telling the untruth, we're not going to just take everything as face value. We do do the additional follow-up. Good point.
Okay. I know you said something about the Atlanta Parks and Rec and the lifeguards. There's also a program called the Atlanta Teen Leaders that's 100% free, that's offered to students ages 13 to 18. It's a free program. I know about 8 sites personally, but they help with community service hours, and they also have like programs where people come to them and they do like fun activities throughout the program where they could just get community service hours and summer jobs.
I'm gonna just add on since I'm a part of that program and kind of like I want to say I'm kind of a face of it. I'm a part of it and I'm engraved in it a lot. I represent my side of town, the east side at Bessie Burnham. That's one of my sites. That's actually my site that I represent, and I want to say that program is amazing. I've been in it since I was a freshman, and I've knocked out all of my required community service, and I've gone over it now. I think I'm in like the 200s range now. So it's a great program. It gives you great work experience in the summer, like she just said. That's kind of where I rely in the summertime as well. But yeah, I'm just vouching for that program, Atlanta Teens program. That's great. That's something you should also push for us. Thank you.
Just to answer Gino's question about the middle school thing, about the middle school students. So I think it's more about making middle school students aware of the voice that they have and just educating them on organizations like SGA, SAC, and telling them like, you can speak up without getting in trouble, or, they always threaten them with having to stay back a grade. Like, they won't have to do any of that. They could just speak up for what they believe in. And I also feel that they could, maybe if there's like an SGA in their middle school, they can take that experience with them to high school.
That was some really good feedback. Thank you, Zach. And now we're gonna you could okay. Now we're gonna move into Marcus with an update on the teen task force.
The safety and security task force. Yep.
Okay, so due to my membership on the operations committee, I was selected to serve on the APS Safety and Security Task Force. So it's ran by Miss Chelsea Montgomery, who was here with us at our last meeting, and the APS Chief of Police. So we basically want to look at different ways to improve security and safety around our district. So during our meetings, we decided to break up all of our resources into different subsections, like our committees. We have communications, technology, mental health, physical safety, and others. So for communications, 3 resolutions and recommendations that we're looking at is improving communication for text lines and see something, say something, like, and even our new system called Talk It Out. We want to give schools toolkits so they can implement those necessary tools that we have. And we also want to have sessions at each school about gun safety and mental health. For technology, we looked at cell phones for social workers, devices for all students with monitoring settings, school cell phones in all classrooms so they can have easier access to the front office if anything happens or if they need to call. And we also wanted to have 24/7 monitored security cameras at all entrances and exits, so somebody basically looking at the cameras so they can see who's coming in and out of the classrooms or even just any door at the school. For mental health, we wanted mental health counselors on campuses. We wanted to hire APS clinical therapists for high-need schools. We wanted to increase our mental health staff, and we wanted to implement a universal suicide prevention. For physical safety, we looked at possibly doing routine maintenance checks and quick fixes on door locks, because I know at some schools the doors or even the locks may be outdated, so it tends to break down. Because I know at best some of our doors do get stuck, they don't lock or they're not able to close, so we want to fix those issues. And we also looked at license plates readers at every campus, so those people that do speed or something, we know that can endanger our kids, so we want to look at that just in case that does happen. And we also proposed looking at the benefits of clear backpacks at schools. And for our other sections, we decided substitute teacher training for those necessary situations. We looked at having everybody in our community taking a more active role in policy advocacy so we can find the best ways to improve safety and security for the district. We wanted trained resource officers at every school, because we know at our elementary schools they don't have police officers or resource officers. So we wanted to add those to our elementary schools so they can have that safety. And we also wanted to update school pictures and the floor plans around the school. So those are just some of the things that our task force is looking at to do for the district.
Thank you so much, Marcus. Does anybody have any questions before we move into breakfast with the board reminders and breakfast with the board?
I mean, this sounds expensive. Definitely that. First thing that came to mind is there's a lot of things that should be added, but is there any that should be taken away?
So we are looking at that because we know some of our current strategies are outdated. So we're looking at possibly either having to gut something, because we know our superintendent, he is looking at making some changes. So we are going to go through that. Because the superintendent is actually on the task force too. So we're talking with him, seeing what's expensive, what needs to get cut out, and we'll make that decision when we make our recommendations to the Board of Education.
Okay, thank you, Marcus.
I actually have one more question. It's about our text now, or our text line. How is the progress going on so far? Do we have the QR code or link?
Not yet. Apparently, they're wrapping some things up, and they are trying to get it out before break. So we're hoping within the next couple of days.
All right, thank you.
All right. Well done. Give yourselves a round of applause. This is our first time that I know of doing ad hoc committee reports in front of the general body, doing a mid-year progress. And so very impressed with the level of detail and engagement and ideas. The adults are impressed, and those that have not heard from your adult person, I know Keith just sent an email again. We're following up and doing it as soon as we can. So you can text us, email us. If you don't hear back, don't feel bad. Remind us again, because we do have a lot going on these last couple of weeks. So if you need something right away, we're here for you. Couple of reminders, and then we'll get some reflections from Gino and Brooke about KAC's Breakfast with the Board. So far, we've had 2. So next semester, we're going to be rolling with everybody. Please make sure that you attend the planning meeting that we have. Is virtual. It's usually about 15, 20 minutes. We meet with your SGA advisor. Keith and I are on there just to emphasize a few things that we want to make sure that you all are aware of. It's really cool to see 8th graders being a part of it this year. That was Keith's idea. And so we're hoping that that continues on, that we get responses from the middle schools. But it's been great feedback, and they've also been excited to participate and speak up. So we can hear from anything else you want to share. Okay. All right. So let's hear really quickly from Brooke and Gino. Any quick reflections? Great job. They had a big house. They had a large group just because, and some good food. Yeah, they did. Because they had 3. Now, it wasn't even all of the KIPP middle schools. It was just the 3 schools that were closest to KAC. So share your reflections.
Hey, thank you so much. Y'all look so small from when I'm standing up. But breakfast with the board was amazing. Of the 2, they actually said we had the best conversation. So I want to see all of y'all beat us, to be honest, though. Breakfast with the board was really good. And also, my piece of feedback, maybe this is for, Keith and Dr. CT, but because of, so we did, I don't know if any of you guys are doing whole group style, but this is how Kip looked yesterday when we had breakfast with the board, and we only had one microphone. So however your microphone, I don't know if you guys will even have, but make sure it's really like who are assigned to move those microphones because sorry y'all got asthma, but it was kind of hard to just make sure that like everybody wants to add in on certain topics. So we have someone over here, but we also have someone all the way over here. So like it was hard for our one person who was helping move around our microphones, and also timing. Make sure that you, as the SIC delegates at your school, are helping to make sure that we're like kind of moving from some things. Because at KC we had a section where like we love KC, so we're talking about all the things we love and all the positive things. But this is really about stimulating change and like stimulating ideas that are going to make change for the future. So, we all love our schools, but try to make sure y'all keep that part short.
Yeah. But there is a question because I like the part where I was able to build connections with the middle schoolers and essentially getting to talk to them about how what's going to happen and how it's okay if they could say basically whatever and give feedback. But that took up some time because Kip's Drive came late. So essentially, is it possible for it to be like for us to come 30 minutes earlier, enabling us to essentially build connections with not just the middle schoolers but each other, because you're getting to know everybody and you would be like, okay, you guys can talk, and what are we gonna talk about? And essentially, they will take up less time of eating and more time of discussing, because I definitely left wanting to talk about more. And along with the microphone situation, everything was really good. And there was a moment that I was really proud of. Shout out to my middle schoolers at Kip Ways. They started getting more and more comfortable because they were hanging around the 9th graders, and they was like, oh yeah, I want to say this. Okay, go here, you can have this. Oh, I want to say this too. And I would say that was great, but also be aware once they start hogging the mic and be like, okay guys, these people over here also want to say something, because there was like a good 20 minutes where everybody here just was talking. So along with that, it was great.
Okay, for the solution for that part about speaking, we had a day before session with everybody who came to our breakfast with the board where we kind of just prepped them on some things. And then looking back, one thing I wish I would have said is be mindful of how much time you're taking to like say something, because when you're talking, it's so hard to find where to end. And sometimes people get lost in that when they're passionate. So just make sure if y'all are having those type of preps, that you're telling people be mindful of that. And then also, also something that we did was we allowed some time for the students to interact with some of the adults that were coming in the building before we actually started the breakfast with the board. So they just got to, formally introduce themselves. Hi, I'm X in this class. And then they also got to interact with the middle school students, maybe give some advice before we actually got started. So yeah, that was my feedback.
Yes. Getting to talk with the board before actually starting meeting. I would say like not the day before, a week before. A big thing that we should have worked on was communication. If we communicated earlier that a week before we was gonna do this, that, and how to essentially not, because we started to overcrowd the board because there's a lot of us and everybody was excited to talk to them. I would say having more just meetings. I don't want to stress the students out though, but at least like 2, a week before and then the day before, to essentially just remind everybody how to act and when to. Not like it wasn't bad. But it was essentially, it could be overwhelming for someone to be surrounded by 20 kids and just essentially, oh, what are you doing? And yeah.
Yeah, and so I would definitely add on to that, and great feedback for everybody. But definitely, because you do have, so you guys are trying to factor in eating and then going through everything, and like Gino just said, you guys do have a lot that y'all want to share, and board members back and forth, and so learn how to maximize your hour and a half that you do have. So that is great feedback and figuring out how to get you guys there much sooner so that you guys can engage with your middle schoolers. But overall, y'all, I think the last two, the two that we had, they were great. I do great point, Brooker, just around elevating change and opportunities. Board members are interested in hearing those. Again, the great is there, right? Don't shy away from saying what's going on well in your school, but also to ask them and tell them what needs to be, what they need to hear, right? They're there, take advantage of that opportunity because they ultimately want to hear what it is that they want, that you want to see them do up here, all right? Is that it? Before I go on my soap opera, because y'all inspired me over here.
So really quickly, we have a lot going on in January. A lot going on. So one thing is our MLK Service Day. We're confirming. The goal is to do it with the Atlanta Food Bank. It's tentative, so Key fill out the form, and we're just waiting to hear back. So we'll give you more details about that. But just all these things. So Marcus and I, we're presenting on the 11th. It's the rescheduled Go Team Summit. So, and then also we have Ariana will be facilitating the office hours with Dr. Johnson for high school, and Naja is going to be facilitating the one for middle school. This is something new that Dr. Johnson's been doing. He's done it with staff, and he wants to do it with students. He's trying to do it every month. I was like, I don't know about that, Dr. Johnson, but maybe every quarter we can do something like that. And then homework. We're working on a student leader symposium for next year, March. We're trying to do it in March, and we need some help. We need a theme. So Dr. Johnson likes or is focusing on excellence everywhere, but we need a theme for our student leader symposium. Last year was created by students. Students created the sessions, and then we found the adults to lead the sessions. So just start thinking, and I'll also put it in the group chat.
And then also, so as Dr. CT said, email day of service, y'all, that is the day on, not a day off. I know y'all, we're out of school, but we go do service. And so we've been doing it for the last 3 years now. Looking to see all your faces for a day of service. It's going to be cool too. We have fun. And then on January 16th, I don't know anybody in this room did, but we did the beloved youth summit with Dr. Bernice King. And this year is going to be at Microsoft, so we're actually working through logistics and figuring out what that looks like for us to attend that. So it's a great opportunity just for us to talk about nonviolence and how can we be impactful in that space, all right? I want to just say I was inspired by listening to you guys do your report outs. Y'all, I am extremely excited and just filled with joy to see the initiative and you guys taking leadership in your ad hoc committees. I will say, as I told Dr. CT over the years, this has been one of the areas that I want to see improve because, again, I don't want you guys just to come to general body meetings and just engage here, but actually go leave these rooms. I keep saying that, leave these rooms and be impactful and do the real work and see the fruits of your labors come to life. And so this is where that happens in ad hoc. So continue to do that. Lean in on us when you guys need us to do it. I know operations was talking about they don't know what it is that y'all want them to do. Immediately comes to mind facilities. Our facilities improved. We just did nutrition rollout. I know a lot of people saying the food is good, but is it really good, right? Yeah. Like how are we capturing that feedback? Also, talking about just empowering SGAs and all that kind of stuff. Again, y'all, here's the formula. I keep saying this. This is the formula. You guys are the senators. Y'all go back to your schools and you guys create initiatives for SGA. We just got the let's talk it out, right? Create some cool initiatives around how y'all can implement those things to make them impactful. We just talked about what else? We just talked about SEL. That's not working. Figure out cool ways to empower your SGAs to do something around that. Like you got to really empower your SGAs. All right. I think that is it for me. Y'all got any questions? Happy holidays, y'all. We finna be gone. Yeah, all that good stuff. But y'all are awesome. Y'all already creating y'all legacy. Y'all got 8th graders coming into y'all space. So yeah, what's up, Lil?
I was just gonna ask, how soon before our breakfast with the board date will we know which board members are coming to our school?
Would ask me that.
Of course.
I try my best to give you guys as much notice as I can, but honestly, board members are part-time and they have full-time obligations and jobs. Again, you guys are their obligation as well. However, though, it is a lot of times tricky to figure out who's coming because they have to figure out, their other obligations and stuff they have to do as well. But my goal has always been to try to get you guys as much notice. Like right now, your dates is already on their calendar, right? So they can go ahead. But again, things happen. But we'll definitely try our best because you probably asking that because you're probably thinking about doing a small group table. So that is one of the challenges I always have with those two because I don't want to take people to be there and nobody's at the table for them. So, but great question. Again, as much information I can know up front, I definitely share with you guys. Yep. So that.
Will you be at the Georgia School Board Association conference Friday?
I had no idea about that.
Oh.
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. Y'all got cardigans though. Merry Christmas.
And they got our names on them, Vino.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we are done. Thank you so much, Keith. We're about to wrap it up. Okay, speaking of calendars, y'all see these days. I want everybody to make sure that y'all have the Google Calendar app downloaded on y'all's phone just to help y'all with scheduling and stuff. And also, I hope y'all feel inspired. I hope y'all feel energized going into this new year, wrapping up finals, wrapping up some of those electives. And I will now entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Move. A second.
Okay, and make sure y'all grab snacks, all the snacks. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I move.
I second.
Okay, we all move and we all second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Okay, so y'all don't want to stay? Make sure you get nay. See y'all later.